I used to admire him. Respect him. He was family. The man who raised the love of my life. A man I should have only seen as a father figure. But admiration turned into something much darker. A secret that I now carry inside me. I wake up every morning next to my husband, knowing that I am living a lie. I smile at him, hold his hand, carry his child, or at least, that's what he believes. But the truth is, I don't know if the life growing inside me is his, or his father's. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. But what happens when that secret is alive, and will soon have a face? Before we begin, I want to warn you, this story is not for the faint of heart. It deals with the kind of love people don't talk about. The kind of betrayal that doesn't come with easy answers. If this makes you uncomfortable, you might want to stop watching now. But if you stay, I promise you, this story will change the way you see love, loyalty, and the things we do in the name of both. I was raised to believe that family is everything. That love is sacred. That marriage is forever. But nothing prepares you for the kind of love that sneaks up on you, the kind that shouldn't exist, but does. My name is Braley Brahman. I'm 28 years old, a housewife, a mother, and until recently, I believed I was a good woman. I come from a conservative Tamil Brahmin family, a family built on honor, respect, and duty. My parents raised me to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother. I was taught that a woman's role is to nurture, to hold a family together, to never question the path set before her. 5 years ago, I married Case Leonard. He was everything my parents wanted for me, smart, ambitious, stable. A lawyer, well respected in his field. To them, that was all that mattered. Love wasn't something they spoke of often. Marriage, to them, was about structure, about building a life that looked good from the outside. And Case gave me that. He was never the overly affectionate type. Not the kind of man who held my face in his hands just to tell me he loved me. But he was good to me. He provided, he protected, he never raised his voice. He was safe. Maybe that should have been enough. We had a son together, Cooper. He's 4 now, with his father's dark eyes and his soft, curious nature. The day he was born, I remember looking at Case and thinking, this is it. This is our family. This is our life. And for a while, I believed it. I truly did. And then everything changed. His mother, Demi, was the heart of this family. She was warm, full of life. She had a way of making everything feel effortless, like marriage, like motherhood, like love. I never told Case this, but I admired his parents more than I ever admired my own. They had a marriage built on laughter, on late-night talks, on touches that lingered even after decades together. It was the kind of love I never saw growing up. The kind of love I secretly longed for. And then she was gone. Just like that. COVID took her fast. One day, she was here, smiling, cooking dinner, planning our next family trip. The next, she was a framed picture in the living room. Her loss left a hole in this house, a silence that pressed against the walls. But no one felt it more than Eugene. My father-in-law was always a strong man. He built a business from nothing, gave Case and his siblings a good life. He was the kind of man who knew how to fix things. But this was something he couldn't fix. Losing her broke him. I watched him stop eating, stop shaving, stop living. He became a ghost in his own home. The man who once filled every room with stories, with laughter, now barely spoke at all. At first, we thought time would heal him. That grief was just a storm that had to pass. But months went by, and he only got worse. The weight dropped from his frame. His hands trembled when he tried to lift a spoon. He sat in the dark for hours, staring at nothing. It was like watching a candle burn out, slowly, painfully. The doctor said we needed to keep him engaged. That if he didn't find a reason to keep going, his body would give up before his heart did. So, we did everything we could to pull him back. We kept him busy, small tasks around the house, helping with Cooper, running errands. We made sure he was never alone for too long. We tried to remind him that there was still something left for him here. Somewhere in all of this, I became his caretaker. It wasn't something I planned. It just happened. Kays was busy with work, court cases, long hours, late nights. It was me who sat with Eugene, me who made sure he ate, me who filled the empty silence with stories from my own life. At first, it was just small things, bringing him tea, asking about his day. But then, it became more. Long conversations over dinner, soft laughter in the middle of the night, moments where I caught him looking at me like I was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. And maybe I was. I don't know when the shift happened. Maybe it was the night he stayed up with me when I was sick, rubbing my back as I leaned over the sink. Maybe it was the time he whispered thank you after I found his late wife's old letters and put them back where they belonged. Maybe it was all the little things, the way his voice softened when he spoke to me, the way he started looking healthier, stronger, like he was waking up from a long sleep. Maybe it was the way he made me feel seen. Looking back now, I wonder, was it always leading to this? Was I always meant to fall into something I couldn't escape? Was I always meant to love him in a way I shouldn't? Kays never suspected a thing. Why would he? I was his wife. Eugene was his father. There was nothing to suspect. No long absences. No whispered phone calls. No lipstick on someone else's collar. Just a family trying to heal. Trying to move forward. Trying, and failing. Temptation doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't announce itself, doesn't ask for permission. It sneaks in quietly, waiting for the right moment to take hold. And when it does, you don't stop it. You just let it happen. That night, I didn't plan for anything to happen. I didn't expect it. But maybe, deep down, I wanted it to. Kays had left town for work. It wasn't the first time. His job kept him busy, court cases, client meetings, late nights spent poring over legal documents. I was used to his absence. So was Eugene. It was just another night. Another evening where we ate dinner together, talked like we always did. Nothing felt different. Not at first. Cooper had fallen asleep early, his small body curled up beside me on the bed. I stayed up a little longer, finishing some laundry, tidying the house. By the time I climbed into bed, exhaustion settled over me. I barely remember closing my eyes. But then, I felt it. A touch. Soft. Light. Hesitant. Not enough to startle me awake, but enough to pull me from the edges of sleep. My mind was slow to catch up, still caught between dreams and reality. I thought I was imagining it. That it was nothing. But then I felt it again. A hand. Moving over the curve of my hip, pressing through the thin fabric of my nightdress. Gentle, deliberate. Familiar in a way it shouldn't have been. My breath caught in my throat, but I didn't move. I didn't open my eyes. I told myself I was still dreaming. That if I just stayed still, if I just pretended I was asleep, it would stop. But it didn't. Fingers tracing over me. A slow, careful touch. Not hurried, not forceful. As if whoever was touching me was waiting. Was hoping I wouldn't pull away. My heart pounded, my body frozen between fear and something I didn't want to name. I turned then, slowly, my breath shallow as my eyes fluttered open. And there he was. Eugene. Sitting at the edge of the bed. His face inches from mine. Neither of us spoke. We just stared at each other. The space between us too small, too intimate. His eyes searched mine, waiting. I should have said something. I should have stopped him. I should have moved away. But I didn't. I couldn't. His fingers brushed against my cheek, and I let him. His touch was warm, careful. Not demanding. Not asking. Just waiting. And then he kissed me. Soft at first. Testing. A question, not a demand. My lips didn't move at first. My mind screamed at me to stop, to push him away, to run. But my body didn't listen. And when his lips pressed harder, something inside me broke. I kissed him back. It should have ended there. That one moment. That one mistake. But it didn't. The bed was too small. Cooper was too close. Eugene pulled back, his breathing unsteady. Then he stood, reaching for the blanket at the foot of the bed. He spread it on the floor. A silent invitation. A choice. One I should have never made. I followed him. No words, just actions. There were no words between us. Just the sound of our breathing, the quiet pull of something unspoken. His touch was careful, deliberate, lingering in a way that neither of us could ignore. We crossed a line that night. A line we both knew we could never erase. And yet, we didn't stop. We let it happen, let ourselves get lost in something we had been fighting for too long. It wasn't just about desire. It was something deeper. Something neither of us could explain. And in that moment, nothing else existed but us. When I woke up, I was still in his arms. His breath warm against my neck. His heartbeat steady beneath my palm. For a moment, I let myself stay there. Let myself believe that it was okay. That it was just a dream. But then reality crashed back. Cooper stirred in the bed. The sun streamed through the curtains. The world hadn't stopped for us. It had kept moving. And now, we had to face it. Eugene stirred beside me, his body shifting. When I looked up at him, his expression was unreadable. No guilt. No regret. Just quiet understanding. And then, without a word, he got up, dressed, and walked out of the room. We never spoke about it. Not that day. Not the next. We acted as if nothing had happened. We went back to our roles. Back to pretending. But the truth lingered in every glance, in every moment we were alone together. It had happened. And there was no undoing it. Days passed. Then weeks. Life continued. But we weren't the same. Eugene and I had become something else. Something dangerous. Something inevitable. We never spoke about that night, but we didn't have to. It was there in every glance. In the way I felt his presence before I even saw him. In the way his hand would brush against mine when we passed each other in the hallway, just for a second too long. In the way I started waiting for moments alone with him, moments that felt stolen, wrong, but still, right. We didn't plan it. We didn't seek it out. But it kept happening. Not every time Kay's was gone. Not every time we were alone. Only when it felt natural. Like the only possible outcome of us existing in the same space. And that was the most dangerous part. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't some affair built on stolen kisses and whispered promises. It was slower. Deeper. A need that lived beneath the surface of everything. And we fed it. Again and again. I told myself it wasn't real. That it was just comfort. That it was just something two lonely people needed, something that filled the spaces grief had left behind. That we weren't hurting anyone. We weren't taking anything away from Kay's. He had his life, his job, his clients, his responsibilities. He came home every night to a happy wife, a healthy child, a stable home. Nothing had changed for him. And if nothing had changed, if no one was getting hurt, did it even matter? I told myself I was still a good wife. That I still loved Kay's. That what I had with Eugene didn't take away from that. That love could exist in two places at once. That what we were doing wasn't selfish. It was survival. But deep down, I knew. I knew I was playing with fire. I just didn't know how close the flames were until it was too late. The nausea started first. At first, I ignored it. Maybe I was just exhausted. Maybe it was stress. But then I missed my period. Then another. My hand shook when I took the test. When the 2 lines appeared, my stomach dropped. Pregnant. I was pregnant. My first thought wasn't joy. It wasn't excitement. It was panic. Case had never questioned anything before. He wouldn't now. He would believe the child was his. He would never suspect. But I would know. I would count the days. I would do the math. I would carry the weight of the truth with every breath, with every kick inside me. I tried to convince myself there was still a chance. That it could be Case's. That maybe fate was giving me a way out. But no matter how many times I counted, how many times I calculated, there was only one answer that made sense. This baby, this life inside me, it wasn't Case's. It was Eugene's. And there was no way to change that. I didn't know how to tell him. How do you tell a man that he's about to be a father, again? How do you tell him that the child growing inside you is his grandchild, and his son? How do you say something that should never have to be said? I didn't plan it. I just blurted it out one night, my hands shaking, my voice barely above a whisper. I think I'm pregnant. He didn't react at first. He just stared at me. I couldn't tell what he was thinking, couldn't read his face. I felt sick. The silence stretched too long, pressing against my ribs. And then I asked the question that had been clawing at my mind since I saw the test. Do you want to know if it's yours? His answer came fast. Too fast. A single sentence that knocked the breath from my lungs. I don't care. I stared at him, my heart hammering. He should have been panicked. He should have been angry. He should have wanted to know. But he just looked at me, his voice calm, certain. This child is family. And we will protect it. That should have terrified me. It should have made me regret everything. But instead, it did something else. It made me love him even more. I was falling deeper, and there was no way out. Secrets don't just stay hidden. They live inside you. They breathe with you. They change the way you see the world. The way you see yourself. And the worst part? No one else knows. No one else sees it. Only you. I should have been happy. That's what I told myself every single day. I had everything I was supposed to want, a loving husband, a growing family, a stable life. On the outside, nothing had changed. But on the inside, everything was different. I was living a double life. Every morning, I woke up next to Case, kissed his cheek, made him coffee, smiled like nothing had changed. I let him touch my stomach, watched his eyes light up when he spoke about our future, let him believe that this child was his. And every time, I felt like I was suffocating. Because I knew the truth. And Eugene knew the truth. And that truth was like a shadow, always there, always pressing against me. Some nights, I lay awake and watched Case sleep. I studied his face, traced the lines of it in the dark, and asked myself over and over, does he deserve this? Does he deserve a wife who is lying to him every second of every day? A wife who carries another man's child while pretending it's his? I thought about telling him. I played the scenario in my head 1,000 times. The words I would use. The way he would look at me when I said them. The anger. The betrayal. The heartbreak. I imagined the moment he would realize that his father, the man he trusted more than anyone, had been the one to shatter his world. And every time, I backed away from the thought. Because the truth wasn't just a confession. It was a bomb. One that would destroy everything in its path. So I kept quiet. I let Case believe the lie. I let him dream about holding his child for the first time. About the life we were building together. I let him love me. Even though I didn't deserve it. And then there was Eugene. I had told myself, after I found out I was pregnant, that it would stop. That we would step away from each other, that we would keep our distance, that we wouldn't make things worse. But that was another lie. Because the truth was, I needed him. And he needed me. And no matter how much I tried to fight it, I couldn't stay away. Every touch, every glance, every stolen moment only made it harder. We had crossed a line that could never be undone, and now, we were trapped in it. In each other. I would sit across from him at the dinner table, Kays and Cooper talking about something meaningless, and I would feel his eyes on me. And I would feel my heart clench in my chest, because I wanted him just as much as he wanted me. But it wasn't just want anymore. It was love. And that was the part that terrified me the most. I thought about the future a lot. About what would happen when the baby was born. When Eugene held them for the first time. When I looked into that child's eyes and saw him staring back at me. I wondered if I would be able to live with it. If I would be able to carry this lie for the rest of my life. The choice was simple, and yet, impossible. Tell the truth, and destroy my family. Keep the secret, and live with the weight of it forever. Some nights, I convinced myself that the truth didn't matter. That what Eugene said was right. This child was family, no matter whose it was. Kays would love them. Eugene would love them. No one had to know. No one had to get hurt. But other nights, the guilt crushed me. It wrapped around my throat, made it hard to breathe. I thought about what it would mean for my child, growing up in a house built on a lie. I thought about what it would mean for me, waking up every day knowing that my entire life was nothing but a performance. Could I do it? Could I bury the truth so deep that even I forgot it was there? Could I look Kays in the eyes every day for the rest of my life and pretend that I wasn't in love with his father? Or was the real question this, had I already made my choice? Because deep down, I already knew. I wasn't going to tell him. I was going to protect this secret, this love, this life I had built, no matter what it cost me. I used to think love was simple. That it had rules. Boundaries. That it stayed in its place, never crossing into the forbidden. But love doesn't follow rules. It doesn't ask for permission. It just happens. Whether we want it to or not. I never believed in fate. But now I wonder, was this always meant to be? Every morning, I wake up next to Kays, knowing that I am carrying another man's child. Knowing that this secret will never leave my lips. Knowing that the man I vowed to love, the man I should have been faithful to, will spend his life raising a child that isn't his. And yet, I don't feel regret. I feel something else. Something I can't name. Love isn't always what people think it is. The world sees infidelity as black and white. As right and wrong. But what if love doesn't fit into those lines? What if love exists in the spaces in between, in the mistakes, in the moments we don't talk about? What if love isn't about morality at all, but about who makes you feel alive? I've asked myself this question so many times. If Kays ever finds out the truth, will he see it as a betrayal? Or will he see it as destiny? Because no matter how much I try to ignore it, no matter how much I try to suppress it, I know what's real. I love Eugene. And I love the child growing inside me. And maybe, that's enough. Or maybe, it's the worst mistake I've ever made. What would you do in my place? Would you tell the truth and risk everything? Or would you protect the ones you love, even if it means living a lie? Some truths are too heavy to bear. But does that make them any less real? Let me know in the comments, because I need to know I'm not the only one who has ever felt this way. And if this story made you feel something, if it made you question what you thought you knew about love and loyalty, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your thoughts below. I'll be reading every single one. Because sometimes, the things we don't say out loud are the things that matter most.